on a sunny and cool Thursday afternoon. Welcome on into the Bullpen. I am your host, Adam the Bull, and this podcast, this live edition of the Bullpen, is brought to you by Bet Rivers. Thanks to all of you who join me live every week. Thanks to all 4,513 of you that have subscribed to the podcast. I appreciate it. The YouTube chat is open, and you can join me live. I tweeted out a link that you can click on, ask a question, and I can bring you up live on camera on the air to join me. Mikey McNuggets, our producer slash leader on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, is going to join the podcast in about 15 minutes. We'll get his take on the Cavs coaching search, which, according to Jason Lloyd, he thinks is going to be going on for quite a while, since the Cavs are really the only team looking for a coach. Washington's picked a coach. The Lakers are just about done with their process, and it's pretty much down to the Cavs. How long could it wait? Who's the right guy? We'll get it all of that coming up a little later. Of course, the podcast, as always, is brought to you by Bet Rivers. Make sure you're using the Bet Rivers app for the oh-so-close parlay insurance during the NBA playoffs. Place a parlay of 4 or more legs on an NBA playoff game each day. You get part of your stake back in bonus bets if you're exactly one leg short of hitting your parlay. The insurance is valid on your first NBA parlay of the day. See the Bet Rivers app for more details and see how much stake back you're eligible for. On Tuesday, I put out a parlay. Part of it was delayed till Thursday early afternoon because of a rainout. But in the end, I hit the 4-leg parlay that I put out for you, a courtesy of the Bet Rivers Sportsbook. Hopefully you took advantage of that parlay that I put out on Tuesday. So I ended the losing streak there. Ready to continue the winning ways. I'll put out another parlay for you that I will tweet out at some point tomorrow on the final day of May. Yes, indeed. It is almost June, which means it's 1 month away from football. But we're not talking about the Browns today, because we're going to be doing plenty of that down the line. If you missed my podcast with Field Yates yesterday, make sure you check it out on YouTube or any, of course, all the places you listen to podcasts. Field Yates, I spoke with him for, 20 some odd minutes. We talked fantasy football. We talked real football. We talked Browns. We talked about it all, even his thoughts on being a Celtics fan. So make sure you check that out when you get the chance. And again, I'll get to the chat. If you're listening live and you're in the chat room on the YouTube chat, then please send a message, and I'll read that in from the chat room coming up a little bit later. For now, I want to talk about the Cleveland Guardians, who are off today following a road trip. And if you look at the Guardians, it's been a bizarre stretch for them, because they have won going back to, remember, they lost in late April. They ended the month losing 2 out of 3 to Atlanta and then losing 2 out of 3 to Houston. And that Houston series ended on May 2nd. Well, since May started, or since that series started, beginning with the Angels series that started on May 3rd, the Guardians have played 8 series since May 3rd. Now, most of them, to be fair, have been against mediocre or bad teams. They played a decent Minnesota team, a struggling Detroit team, and they played a good Texas team, and a Mets team that was playing better earlier but has fallen apart, and then bad teams in the Angels twice, the White Sox, and the Rockies. And oddly enough, well, I guess it's not odd that they won 6 of those 8 series. It's actually not surprising. But they dominated a lot of them. Obviously, they swept the Mets. They swept the Twins. They swept the second Angels series. In fact, after losing to the Angels on May the 3rd in a 6-0 game, they've now won 5 in a row against the Angels. But the 2 series they lost to really the 2 worst teams on their schedule. Well, I was going to say, you play everybody now. So probably the 2 worst teams in baseball, the White Sox and the Rockies. The Guardians, since I'll go to May 4th because they lost that first game against the Angels. So since May 4th, the Guardians have won 16 games and lost 7. They're 16-7 since May the 4th, 16-7. They are, oddly, 2-5 in this stretch against the White Sox and Rockies, and 14-2 against everybody else. And we go to the standings. The White Sox have a .263 winning percentage at 15-42. That's the worst in all of baseball. The Colorado Rockies, Colorado Rocky beer. The Colorado Rockies, 20-35, a .364 winning percentage. That is the third worst in baseball. So the Marlins I think the Marlins are a better team than the Rockies. They've had so many injuries, but technically the worst team in baseball is the White Sox, who they lost 3 of 4 to, and the Rockies are the third worst team in baseball record-wise. They are 20-35. The Marlins are 20-37. So they struggled against those two teams in those series for whatever reason. In this last series, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday against the Rockies, the pitching was awful in that series. Now, for most of the last month, the Guardians' pitching has been on point, but these 3 games in Colorado, the Guardians starters all pitched poorly. The Rockies scored 22 runs in the 3 games of this series. Now, the Guardians scored plenty of runs in this series as well. They actually scored 23. So they actually outscored the Rockies. Unfortunately, they scored 13 in one game and 10, which is perfectly fine for 2 games, but it wasn't enough because the Rockies scored 15 in the 2 games that the Guardians scored 10. But so not a good series for the Guardians. In the first game of that series, Xavier Curry got destroyed. McKenzie bad but not destroyed in the second game, and Logan Allen got destroyed in the third game. I was convinced that the Guardians would pull out that series yesterday, and they score a run. They scored 2 actually in the top of the first. They gave 1 back in the bottom, but I'm like, all right, Logan Allen's been really good. They'll be all right. They'll pull out this game. And then obviously the Rockies went bananas, scored 6 runs in the bottom of the second. But at the time, it felt like, well, maybe this is one of these crazy games that ends 13-10 or something, 7-2. But after scoring the 2 in the first, the Guardians did nothing until the 9th inning. And by then it was too late. They scored 2 in the 9th, but that was it. It was a quiet day for the offense. No home runs in this game for the Guardians. They only had 8 hits. Josh Naylor and Brian Rocchio, surprisingly, had 2 hits. But the Guardians only had 2 extra base hits in the game, 6 singles. Jose had a double. Naylor had a double in this one. But this game was all about the terrible performance by Logan Allen. He struggled. The bullpen, though, again, very good. The bullpen was not great in a little bit in that Rocky series. But some of the guys that don't pitch a ton pitched well yesterday. And Eli Morgan just came off the injured list yesterday afternoon, and he had been struggling earlier in the season. And at times over the last 2 years, he's been very good for the Guardians. So it was a great spot to throw him. I mean, you don't want to be losing 6-2 or 7-2, but it was an opportunity to bring him into a game where he hadn't pitched in a month or whatever it was, and so it gave him an opportunity to pitch in a low pressure situation for the first time. He came in the game in the second after Allen just got that second inning, it was single, walk, double, sac fly, single. Then he got an out, but then Brendan Rodgers hit a home run. Then he hit a batter, and then Diaz hit a double to knock in a run, and that was it with 2 outs. And Morgan comes in, gets the final out of the inning to keep it at 7-2. He has he gave up a base hit in the third, but then he picked off the runner, so it was basically a 1-2-3 inning, and he gave up an infield single for his only base runner in the 4th inning, and then got the first out of the 5th, walked the batter. So I just thought, in what's already been a really good bullpen, I think Eli Morgan's got some really good talent, and so as much as the Guardians' bullpen has been used, I thought it was important to get him some quality innings. And that had to build his confidence coming off struggles early in the season. There can always be positives in a game, right? Josh Naylor, who had been struggling the last few weeks, got a couple hits to break that slump on Tuesday at 2 home runs. But he got another 2 hits yesterday. So he's got to be feeling good with, I think, 4 or 5 hits in the last couple of games. Brian Rocchio, who struggled, got a couple of hits in that game. So you look for little victories in what was one of the worst Guardians games of the year. But like I said, Morgan 2 2/3, 3 base runners. He didn't strike anybody out, which I don't love. Oddly, the Guardians only struck out 3 batters in this game. They're pitchers, and that was Avila late in the game. Henches, who's been obviously up and down, got it out. Tim Herron pitched well. He's got his ERA's down to 1.14. Only allowed 1 base runner in this game. So the bullpen overall did a good job. They went 6 1/3, 3 hits, 2 walks, only 5 base runners, 6 2/3, no runs. Again, only 2 strikeouts, but they did a good job of, allowing the team not to go to any of their key relievers at this moment. And hopefully Herron and especially Morgan could get back to being kind of, bigger members, because it's all hands on deck. The starting pitching has been up and down this season. And so it's certainly important to have other relievers develop, because even your best relievers sometimes are going to struggle. There's going to be ups and downs by everybody. Nobody in the bullpen is always hot at the same time. The Guardians bullpen has been overall fantastic, but with as much as some of the key guys have been used, I think Morgan and even Herron could be important pieces at times during this season. So it was good to see both of them pitch well, especially Morgan coming off, as I said, some early season struggles. You look at his ERA, it's fine, but there were games where he did not pitch that well. So I'd like to see the strikeouts come up a little bit. He faced, I think, 10 batters. Something like that. I think 10 batters. I'm pretty sure it was. So I like to see some strikeouts, but that'll come. It was a good, it was a good opportunity for him. Double K Creative asks, I know it was only the second inning, but why not pull Allen before he gave up 6? You can't, as much as you want to win every game in baseball, it's not football, right? In football, you can't afford to ever say, let's wait for the next game. And I know the Guardians had the day off yesterday, but you never want to pull, or today, but you never want to pull your starting pitcher in the second inning. And Logan Allen's been so good lately and things deteriorated quickly in that second inning. I think Stephen Vogt felt that he would get it under control. It's a ballpark where they just scored 13 runs the day before. So he's thinking, okay, maybe we can get out of this with it's 4 or it's 5. And our offense has been great. We'll bounce back. Unfortunately, with the double at the end and the hit batter, once he has the 2 outs, you hope to get him through that inning and he can right the ship and get you through 4 at least. Didn't happen. You could argue if you want. You could have pulled him 2 batters earlier. I think in the end, this is a long-term thought. You don't want to use 6 relievers in a game where you're losing. And you got to show some faith in your pitcher that he can get out of it. This time he couldn't, but maybe to some degree the faith Stephen Vogt showed in him, leaving him in there as long as he did, pays off. You saw that with Tanner Bybee. It was different. Tanner Bybee came through. In this case, he didn't. But I really have no problem with that decision. Coming up later in the podcast, we'll get to we're going to get to just a moment or two. We're going to talk some Cavs. Mikey McNuggets going to join me in just a minute here, and we'll bring him in to get his thoughts on the Cavs coaching search and the conversation that he had and then we had with Jason Lloyd this morning about the Cavs probably not making any kind of quick decision on the situation. So we'll get to that in just a little bit. But looking ahead, the Guardians now come home. I think I'm going to try to get to a game. I haven't been to a game yet at Progressive Field this season. I obviously went to the Lake County Captains game last weekend. But I think it's time now. And I may go for my birthday. My birthday is Tuesday. Not that I guess I don't really care that much about my birthday at this point. But it's an interesting pitching matchup. Seth Lugo's been really good for Kansas City. He's expected to pitch the first game of that series. Mackenzie Lugo. Although I would like to see Tanner Bybee. I've never seen Tanner Bybee in person. I did see Mackenzie once. First, I'll play the Nats this weekend. Bybee pitched 2 games in the homestand. He'll pitch tomorrow against the veteran Patrick Corbin. That's one of the worst contracts in baseball. They paid him a ton of money, and he's been awful. The Nats pitching hasn't been bad besides Corbin. They've had some young guys that are interesting. We'll see Mitchell Parker pitch the second game of the series on Saturday against Ben Lively, who's been lively. Jake Irvin's been decent for Washington. Their problem is their lineup. So 7:10 game tonight, 4:10 tomorrow, 1:40 on Sunday, and then next week again, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, after a Monday day off at home, which is nice for the players. 6:40 games Tuesday and Wednesday, and then next Thursday, a 1:10 game, Bybee and Waka. I probably can't get to that game because it's too early in the day, but think I might go on my birthday. Some of the other guys of UCSS, so maybe we'll see. It should be a fun homestand. Hopefully, should be big crowds. I think it's going to be good. I think it's supposed to be nice weather this weekend. I can't remember now, but and then Kansas City. They're your biggest threat in the division right now. So, that would be the way to go. So, I'll look forward to that and try to get out to the ballpark because I haven't been there. Obviously, as I said, I haven't been there this year, so I haven't seen it. You see on TV, of course, all the changes and the way the ball has carried to right field. But to this point, I haven't been able to see it in person. So I want to see if just being there, you can tell any kind of difference in the way the ball is carrying out to right field. Now I feel like I got to check the forecast. I'll check the WKYC forecast. Let's see. Mike is saying he's in, Max, and I'm not seeing him. So I don't know if I'm doing something wrong or I'm just not seeing it or he's doing something wrong. So we'll try to get him up in a minute. But let's see. The forecast for this upcoming. Yeah, there is really nice weather this weekend. 72 and sunny tomorrow. 81 with clouds on Saturday, but no chance of rain. There is a chance of rain Sunday morning. 71 degrees. And then for next week, there's some scattered thunderstorms. So we'll hope for the best. We'll hope the weather turns out okay. Let's see. All right, Mike, we're gonna do some creative fixing here because Mike did the wrong thing. I probably misled him, so now I got to send a text to Mike while I'm on the air here, so we can get Mike to join us to talk about the Cavs. That's why I'm stalling a little bit. But hopefully the weather will stay nice next week as well. It's so much fun watching the Guardians. I know the Rocky series was a bad one, especially, the first and third games. I'm loving life with the Guardians. I mentioned on UCSS today, I'm actually more locked into the Guardians than I am the Cubs. Now, part of that's the Cubs are playing terrible baseball. But I love talking about baseball, and I love when the Guardians are good. And my job is the Guardians. My job is not the Cubs. And I'm not going to be talking about the Cubs for more than a second or two here and there. So the more I get to talk about the Guardians, the more pleasure I get from. I love doing my job, and I love talking about the Cavs, and I love talking about the Browns. But I love talking baseball, and this is a great time of the year to do that. And so the better the Guardians play, the more excited I am, and the more into it I am. All right, now I got to text Mike again because we're having some problems. Mike, click the first link instead. We're going to just have Mike jump on. Hopefully this will work because I want to get Mike's take on the coaching situation. The Cavs, in the next day or two, the Lakers are going to probably hire their next head coach, and that will leave the Cavs as the only team looking for a head coach. So the Cavs are in no rush. And there's Mikey McNuggets after some technical difficulties.
We made it, Bull.
We made it. Now, first of all, let's tell the folks where you are.
I'm in Lakewood.
Yeah.
Walking the dog right now. I have assumed step dog dad duties.
Yeah.
Not necessarily something I signed up for, but
yeah,
didn't really have a choice. And today was my day to walk.
Yeah.
Frankie, and so now we're on a nice little stroll through Lakewood, Bull.
All right. I'm assuming you don't want me to continue with this line of questioning?
Let's talk some Cavs. I can't wait to talk some Cavs.
All right. Enjoy your walk. It's a beautiful day. It's nice and cool. It's not too hot. All right. Let's get to the Cavs. So today on UCSS, Jason, and he on your show as well, he hit us with hey, there's no rush. They want to really wait. They're not going to hire a coach, at least he thinks, until Donovan Mitchell makes his decision, which probably happens early July.
Yeah, it can't happen before then. It's worth noting. It literally cannot happen.
Right, but it can happen
early July.
I guess in theory it could happen later.
In theory, yeah.
Right, but it probably will happen in early July. Right, because free agency technically starts, July 1st, I think?
Yeah, the draft is the 26th, and then it's the following week. So
Yeah.
the first day.
No, you're breaking up. We're having some technical difficulties. We'll try to make it through. So early July, first week of July is when free agency starts. Hopefully Donovan Mitchell signs an extension. And Jason brought up the point that, when the Cavs hired David Blatt before they knew LeBron was coming back, Blatt was probably a terrible choice either way. But once LeBron was there, it was clearly the wrong choice. And so hopefully the Cavs don't want to make that same kind of mistake again. And so that's why they're waiting. Are you concerned at all?
Yes.
And listen, and maybe, well, okay, why are you concerned?
I mean, look at the draft track record of Kobe Altman. And he has had some hits. Evan Mobley, obviously, hasn't been the unicorn yet, but not a bad player. Darius Garland, top 5 pick, has turned into an all-star. But he certainly had his misses, too. You look at Isaac Okoro, 5th overall pick that year. Multiple players from that draft class selected after Isaac Okoro who have been contributors. Jaden McDaniels, if you want to go specifically at a position that Isaac plays. And then when you look at the roster construction, I just don't think one person with the track record of someone like Kobe Altman, who has had some hits, he has certainly had his fair share of hits, should be loaned back those decisions. Whoever that may be, I want them to have some say in whoever these personnel decisions are, whether it's draft, whether it's free agency, whether it's trades. Should be the one making all those decisions. People who are important in the organization.
Mike, unfortunately, we have a terrible connection. And so I got to let you go. It's all right. It happens. We'll let you go. But thanks for trying. I appreciate you taking the time. I asked you at the last second to join me, and you already had you had your walk planned, and I understand that. But Mike's point is a valid one. The concern about Kobe Altman. Now, to me, it doesn't really matter if the coach is there or not in terms of trusting Kobe Altman, because ultimately it's the general manager that is going to make the pick. The GM is going to make the pick make the pick in the draft, but it's the GM that's going to make the decision on any trades they may make. So you either trust Kobe Altman or you don't. And if you don't, well, I don't know that it matters who the coach is, because it's Kobe's decision. Any coach that the Cavs bring in is not going to be able to overrule, I would assume, Kobe Altman in terms of a draft pick, in terms of hopefully not, but a Donovan Mitchell trade if they have to, if he's not going to re-sign, in terms of a Darius Garland trade potentially, or a Jared Allen trade. So if you don't trust Kobe Altman, I don't know that I really do. I think Kobe Altman's track record has been a mixed bag. Early, it was really bad. He's done some better things lately, but in the end, and the team has gotten better year by year, but you fired the coach, even though they've gotten better. The GM, you could blame him even more, really, because he ruined the last run by the Cavs with that awful Kyrie Irving trade. He authored that. It was a terrible trade. It was awful. The Kevin Love contract, awful. Now, he's done some good things since, but to this point, you'd say all the guys he's drafted have not lived up to what you thought they'd be. Evan Mobley hasn't been as good as we thought. Darius Garland looked like he reached that potential, and he's gone backwards. Isaac Okoro's been a nothing player. Jared Allen was a fine acquisition. He's been a really good player for the Cavs, who's gotten better. I mean, that's a major positive. And he's done some things along the fringes that have been good and positive for the Cavaliers. But ultimately, I look at Kobe Altman, and I think he's done more. There's been more negative than positive. And I'm not saying he's the worst GM ever, or that he couldn't get it right this offseason, but this is a massive offseason for the Cavs. And for me, I'm iffy with my trust of the GM, and I bet most of you are as well. So, again, it's not like I'm saying, oh, he's terrible. He's definitely going to get it wrong. No, he might get it right, or he might get part of it right. But this is a huge offseason because you have to make decisions. I mean, I guess Donovan Mitchell has to make the first decision, and then you have to make decisions on Darius Garland and Jared Allen. And if you trade them both, you got to make sure you maximize the return on both. And these trades are huge because if you do them and you get it wrong, well, then Donovan Mitchell may have signed that extension, but then he's going to want out of here in a year or two. And then where are you? If you get it right, on the other hand, well, maybe you have a championship team potentially if you make the right moves. So this is one of the, we say this a lot, but this is certainly one of the bigger off seasons for the Cavs, and maybe the biggest without LeBron in forever, without LeBron being part of it. Although I guess you never know. You never know. All right. By the way, Matt says he's also walking the dog. Hopefully Matt has better reception than Mikey did. Appreciate everybody that joined me today. I appreciate all the fans, all the supporters. As always, please hit the thumbs up when you can, even though Mikey McNuggets screwed us up with technical difficulties. Not his fault. It's not his fault. It's my fault. But please give the thumbs up. Please make sure you hit the subscribe button. Thanks to Max for producing today, with Monzo getting a day off, taking care of family business. And, of course, thanks to all of you, the fans. We'll talk to you again next time. Thanks for everybody in the chat. Coming up next week, we break into June. We're past the 1/3 point in baseball. We're just a few weeks away from training camp. There'll be a lot of things, working on some good guests for next month as well. So I'll have the next podcast on Monday. I'll be on UCSS tomorrow, including on WKYC Channel 3. We'll talk to you next time. Where else but right here in the Bullpen with Adam the Bull, brought to you by